What facts sound like BS but are actually true? Had correct. This would be a grammatically correct sentence. The world's largest river is underneath the Amazon River. The clitoris extends 5 inches down either side of the vagina. Clitoris is a small island off the coast of Greece. We found it, boys. Jupiter is significant enough in size, even at its distance, that it doesn't orbit the Sun. Rather, the Sun and Jupiter co-orbit a point just outside the Sun. In other words, the Sun rotates around a point just outside its disk, thanks to the gravitational effects of Jupiter. If you were born on a spaceship leaving Earth and constantly traveling at the speed of light, if you lived to be 100 years old, you'd still be 24,900 lifetimes away from the nearest galaxy. There are 13 US states entirely north of the southernmost point in Canada. Polar bear populations have actually been increasing since the 50s. There is a clown college that's statistically harder to get into than Harvard. In England, by law, every male over the age of 14 must do 2 hours archery practice a day. The US job with the highest mortality rate is president, with 18.2% dying in office, half of them having been murdered. There are 6 US state capitals that are west of Los Angeles: CA, Sacramento, Carson City, Salem, Olympia, Juneau, Honolulu. Sacramento and Carson City are probably the two that would otherwise throw people off until they look at a map and remember just how much the Southern California coast swings southeast. Communists have killed significantly more people than Nazis. Every day of the week is more likely to be an odd-numbered day. Oxford University is older than the Aztec Empire. 1 million monkeys typing for 1 million years would produce the works of Shakespeare, but at least 25 manuscripts would be 1 letter off, and it would be the same letter. This was tested. They gave 25 monkeys 25 keyboards connected to computers and already loaded with Word. The monkeys processed to type a few letters, shit on the keyboards, and then throw the shit-covered keyboards at the observers behind the glass. Wheels weren't added to luggage until the 1970s. On this day in 1969, John Lennon returned his OBE in protest of UK's support of the Vietnam War. Not sure if anyone had said this, but the United States of America has been at war for 93% of its existence, 222 out of 239 years. There is enough water in Lake Superior to cover both North and South America in 1 foot of water. 100% of space crime has been committed by lesbians. I always thought Linda Marciano's stage name Linda Lovelace claims about her treatment in the porn industry sounded far-fetched, but a few years ago I did some fact-checking and found that the extremely depraved act she described can be easily proven because the videos still exist. Several people observed bruises on her in deep throat, and witnesses from the time back up her claims that Chuck Trainer physically abused her. 1 teaspoon of a neutron star is equal to the weight of about 900 pyramids. Neutron stars are incredibly dense. They're very small, about 12.5 miles in diameter, but are about 1.5 times the mass of Earth's Sun. If you are going near light speed 0.99 c, for you it will take only 1.8 years to travel 40 light-years. You mean it will take the perceptual equivalent of 1.8 years, right? The 10th American president, John Tyler, still has 2 living grandchildren. Lobsters cannot die of old age. Like legit. This is technically true but a little incomplete. Lobsters don't age like humans. But every molt requires more and more energy until eventually they simply don't have the energy to molt. At that point they either start molting anyway and die of exhaustion or stop molting, at which point they can only live as long as they can keep their current shell safe. So ultimately time does play a role in the life of a lobster. But yes, if you could find a way to get a lobster through all of its molts, it would never die of age. There are 2 million more people living in the state of California than in all of Canada. On flat ground, the distance you can see before the Earth curves out of sight is only 3 miles. Based on 6 feet person. Flat earthers must be short MFs. That Cleopatra was closer to the first Pizza Hut being built than the pyramids of Giza being built. Fanta was made by Nazis during World War II. The original red, white Santa came from Coca-Cola. The zebra is black with white stripes, not white with black stripes. Albert Einstein could have become the president of Israel. Honey can't spoil. Go bad. It was made by a German in World War II, but the inventor was not a Nazi. From what I can find, he actually refused to join the Nazi party even when pressured to do so. If you took all the DNA out of your cells, attached it all together, and unraveled it into a single long strand of DNA, it could reach Pluto. Explanation: the DNA in a human cell is about 1 meter long. We have about 10 trillion cells in our body. Pluto's orbit at its furthest is 7.5 trillion meters from the Sun. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Bruce Lee lived in the same neighborhood at the same time and even attended the same gym. Yet there is no record they ever met. Space is only about an hour's drive away, if your car could drive straight up. If properly shuffled. Whenever you play a hand of cards, that combination of 52 cards is probably the first time in human history it has been in that order. 52 is a huge number. Oh, I love the explanation of this one. Every single second that passes equals one possible combination of cards. Stand at the equator. For every 1 billion years, take one step forward. After 40 million steps, or 4 by 1016 years, you'll circle the Earth once. For every circle, take one drop out of the Pacific Ocean and place it in a really big bucket. Repeat this until you have drained all 710 million cubic kilometers of water. With the ocean drained, place a piece of paper on the ground, refill the ocean, start over. Keep repeating this entire process until your pile of paper has reached, get this, the Sun. You're not finished. You now need to make 1,000 piles that reach the Sun. At this point, you have experienced 30% of the seconds required, as there are possible combinations in a deck of cards. Suffice to say, 52 is almost impossibly large. At the start of the Roman Empire, the pyramids of Giza were older to the Romans than the Roman Empire is to us today. Cleopatra lived closer to the modern day than she did to the building of the pyramids. Scientists who work with cockroaches often become allergic to pre-ground coffee. A group of pugs is called a grumble. The lighter was invented before friction matches. In case anyone is wondering, this is because prior to 1805, the creation of the chemical match, most humans had a highly evolved laser vision. Unfortunately, this ability slowly wilted once it was no longer needed for daily life and replaced by matches. There's more water closer to the center of the Earth than on the surface. There are 1 million ants for every person there is in the world. I haven't received my million ants yet. Do I need to fill out a form or something? Rosa Parks only died in 2005. The news media is 8 times more likely to blame a school shooting on video games when the perpetrator is white. The Irish invented whiskey in the 1300s and then didn't invent anything of note until 1661, when Robert Boyle established the basis for modern chemistry. We currently have a method of removing CO2 from the atmosphere and turn it into practically anything useful: plastics, chemicals, jet fuel, you name it. There are only 13 active blimps in the world. The Goodyear blimp is not one of them, as it is not technically a blimp. But Yo Mama is. Aside from New York and Los Angeles, Toronto, Canada is larger than every other city in the US. Black holes take so long to die that not a single one has died in the history of the universe yet. Woolly mammoths still existed when the Egyptian pyramids were being built, but far away from Egypt, on an island north of the Bering Strait. All the other planets in the solar system could fit in between the Earth and the Moon. However, actually doing this is not advised. 64% of statistics are made up on the spot. If you placed a powerful enough telescope 60 light-years away from Earth and pointed it at the Moon, you could witness the Moon landing all over again. If you throw a rock in the ocean, chances are that you might be the last one to see that rock for millions of years to come. Some biology institutions consider snakes to be a type of lizard, and they would be right to do so. Alaska has over 3 million lakes. The fax machine was invented before the telephone. Donald Trump's favorability rating is higher today than it was on Election Day 2016. 169 years after Jamestown was settled, the Declaration of Independence was signed. 169 years later, World War II ended. If you fell forwards instead of backwards while scuba diving, you would still be in the boat. By just waiting 24 hours, anyone can do a 360. Most men and women aren't anti the opposite gender, or racist. The select few that are extremely vocal about their opinions make Reddit seem like men and women are extremely divided and hateful. The plural of beef is beeves. Cleopatra created sparkling wine by crushing pearls into it. Catnip works great at keeping mosquitoes away. Just get a spray and use it as body mist. You'll smell musky, and there is a chance your cat will not leave you alone. But hey, no mosquitoes. It also attracts cats, which is a win-win. There are more people that have walked on the moon than there was on the original run of Takeshi's Castle. There are more trees on Earth than stars in our galaxy. Portland, Oregon is north of Toronto, Ontario. Over half of the population of Canada lives south of Seattle. The North and South Pole flip-flop about every 100,000 years. If I remember correctly, the next flip is long overdue. The United States was founded in 1776. People live to be 100. That's 3 people ago. Joe Rogan. The human head weighs 8 pounds. Dinosaurs never died out. All birds are dinosaurs. All birds are technically reptiles. Crocodiles are more closely related to birds than they are to lizards. Phylogenetics is fun. If you could happily stand unprotected on the daylight side of the planet Mercury, and sound could travel through outer space somehow, the sheer noise of the sun would kill you. From Earth it would be as loud as someone using a jackhammer right next to you. Arizona Cardinals are older than the NFL and the state they play in. And they still haven't won a Super Bowl. Fun fact: since the Chicago Cubs won the World Series a few years ago, the Arizona Cardinals have taken over as the oldest franchise in the major American sports without a championship. 0.999. Infinite nines and 1 are equal. They are 2 representations of the same number, like 0.5 and 1/2. A slice of a Granny Smith apple between turkey and prosciutto is delicious. There is a planet that's entirely populated by robots. Pablo Picasso only died in the 70s. The longest work of fiction in the English language is a Super Smash Bros. Brawl fan fiction. A mantis shrimp can punch with the force of a .22 caliber bullet. It uses the punch to instantly kill its prey. The lunch goes so fast, it can't be seen by humans. The lunch goes so fast, it can't be seen by humans. This is what used to happen when I fed my dog. You can make a whole sentence out of just one word: X, buffalo and police. Police, police. Police, police. Police, police, police. Police, police, police. This can continue ad infinitum. Punctuation added for clarity. Calling the color orange. Orange came after the fruit. While we're on that, the orange is a hybrid between a pomelo and a mandarin. Also, it reproduces asexually. Fun fact: this is why redheads aren't called orange heads. The need to describe their hair color came before the color orange. The planet which Mercury spends most of its time closest to is Venus. The planet that every other planet spends most of its time closest to is Mercury. JFK was shot with a $20 gun. I don't know if that's common knowledge, but I just think that's interesting. Only about 66 years separate the Wright brothers' flight at Kitty Hawk from Apollo 11's landing on the Moon. Only the biggest clownfish in a school is female, the rest are males. If she dies, the next biggest male turns into a female to take her place. This makes Finding Nemo a lot more disturbing, thinking Merlin would turn female and repopulate with Nemo. Wombat poop is cubed. I thought that said woman, but that's stupid. Women don't poop. They don't have the holes. Considering the entire population, the average number of legs per person is less than 2. Eating fat doesn't make you fat. Eating a lot of calories makes you fat. Wyoming only has 2 escalators. Of course, Wyoming still has little to no evidence of being real, but I'm holding out hope. There are 169 octillion 518 septillion 829 sextillion 100 quintillion 544 quadrillion ways to play the first 10 moves in chess. Additionally, the number of distinct 40-move games in chess is far greater than the number of electrons in the observable universe. The older a woman is, the more likely she is to have twins, triplets, etc. if she gets pregnant. George is on a game show, and he has to pick one of 3 doors. There's a car behind one of them and goats behind the other 2. He picks door number 1. The host, who knows what's behind all the doors, opens door number 2, revealing a goat. He then says to George, "I'll let you switch doors if you want." Should George stick with door number 1 or switch to door number 3? The correct answer is to switch to door number 3. Switching will give him advantage as probability increases to 2/3. He should switch to door number 2. Free goat. That there was a war in which Australia went to war against emu birds and lost. There's no scientific concept called the present time. We are trapped between past and future in an infinite way. Reading silently to yourself wasn't a thing in antiquity or the early Middle Ages Europe. Literate people would read aloud or have someone read to them. Exactly when the change happened is debated, but it's likely that with the invention and spread of printed books, reading could be done faster and in larger quantities. So silent reading and intense study by yourself was more efficient, especially for scientific texts. Poetry no longer being sung or set to music, but read as text as separated from songs as a genre is related. Not a hard fact, but it certainly makes a big difference.